So to get started, you will need strips, very thin strips of card. So I have got my, again, just a standard 8" by 5 3/4 width card folded in half to create your C6 card base. Okay, so that's going to just go on one side because I don't need that at the minute. Then I have, oops Daisy, really, I have a piece of card that is 5.5 by 2.5. Okay, so a piece of card that's 5.5 by 2.5, and that is going to be the bit that has all of the strips on it. Okay, and I use coloured cards just so that in case any bits show through, if I'm not really good at with my sticking, I can you know, basically it'll just be a bit of blue that'll show through, and that's not too bad. I've got a sentiment all ready to go there. I've got a dragonfly that's going to go on instead of the butterfly, and then I have got a card base, but I obviously haven't, I'll have to dig out of my stash to find a base. So the base card I used was 3.5 by 5 1/4. So that's the layer that I'm going to put on the actual card. So it's a bigger layer, or sorry, it's a smaller layer than I would normally use, but I just kind of thought it fitted with this style. So I need to cut that out because I haven't done that yet either. And then I just have all these strips, really thin strips of card, quite a few different ones. I'm going to try and make a kind of rainbow. It won't be exact, but they'll just be nice colourful strips. So once again, I'm going to have to start sticking down some tape onto my card base here. So I'll just work through and do that, like so. Just completely covering the card really. I mean, there are spaces, which is fine as long as I get it nice and tight up against the edges. That's really going to be the most important, is getting it nice and tight up against your edge. And I'll just take that off, and then I'll put a little bit more down. Now you could have a big massive strip of card that you cover all at once so that you can cut it up and you know, have several cards that you can make with a rainbow background, especially if you've got long strips like me. I'm just thinking about that now actually. So what I mean is I could have had another, oops Daisy, like, sorry that's all sticky. I could have another piece of card here that I also stick at the same time. Just a hint and a tip there if you wanted to do that, because then whenever you could have it like a longer strip going that way. Okay, just that's a thought that I'm having now, which I could have had obviously before I started, but these things just come into our heads sometimes. So I could have had a nice longer strip, but we don't, so we're just going for this. And if you have a silicone mat, you can pop that under your tape as well. That helps so that your project doesn't end up sticking to the paper. So, especially if your tape kind of overhangs. Right, so I've got it all nice and neat now. I've got the glue on, and I'm going to start putting my colours. So I'm just going to turn it on its side, so I've got the length coming down here, and I'm just going to start at the top. I'm just going to start in the corner basically, and I know this is really long, but that's fine, and I'm just going to pop a little bit of red just like that in the corner, and then I'm going to get a different shade of red. Is that the same shade or darker? Slightly darker. And then I'm going to just put that right up against that first piece, and you're gonna have an overhang on both sides, and that's absolutely fine. And then I'm going to just come in with it slightly, this is a bit more pinky, like that. Oops. Okay. And then I'm going to go on and I'll put some yellow in. and just keep buttoning it up against the edge and make sure it's you know, going over right across the whole of the card. And you'll just continue working through with your little strips and going until you have covered the entire piece of card with coloured strips. So I'm just going to keep working through. Going on to green now. And my strips do vary in width, and that is absolutely fine. Okay, and then I'll move to blue. And you can have whatever colour strips that you happen to have in your stash. You know, it doesn't have to be rainbow or anything. It can just be whatever colours you have that just come out. And then I'll move to... Is that a different colour of blue or is that the same? It's slightly different. Just use that little piece there. That's just going to fit perfectly. And then I'm going to move to purple. Lots of different colours of purple here. Oops. And just make sure you've covered it all. Right, and then if I flip it over, you'll see, oops, there's my rectangle. So I'm going to just trim a rough trim round to start. Probably actually could, well, I can get that side actually quite good. So if you feel comfortable to just go the whole way along using your card base as a template guide of where you're cutting, then feel free to do that. And that's actually working out quite well, so I'll just continue just trimming that around with the scissors. Okay, and there is my finished piece, and I'm just going to lay it down on the tabletop here and just really push around just to really make those pieces fixed in place. Okay, and then I am just going to clear the decks a bit of all these scraps and just grab these pieces here that I need. Okay, and I'll just move these little scraps over to one side just so they're out of the way of my workspace. So I've got this piece and I'm going to be putting a bit of vellum, but I actually have made the vellum this time a little bit shorter so that you still get a little burst of the actual original colour coming down both sides. So my card piece was 2.5 by 5.25, I think. Yep. So my vellum piece is 5.25, and I've just cut it a shade shorter, so it's just over 2.25 really. And as I say, I wanted to have a little strip coming out both sides, just a little flash of that really bright colour. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my dragonfly popped on there, and then I'm going to have my sentiment layered onto this darker card here. And then I'm going to get my card base, and I need to now cut out a layer for that to go onto, because I don't really want it just to be on the white card. Well, actually, it does quite look nice, but I'd have to have another layer, I think. Maybe this is it, and let me just see, is that about right? That's a full size layer. Okay, so I'm just going to trim that. I can just trim that down a little bit, I think. Bear with me for a second. So just add a bit of glue. And then I shall stick that down. Okay. So pop that onto the card base. And then I'm going to bring in my piece here. And I think, yeah, I layered this piece up on foam pad, so I'll do the same again. For doing the vellum, I'm going to use where I put the dragonfly and where I put the sentiment as anchor points, because there are some glues that you can use with vellum, and you can actually just use a wet glue all over the vellum if you wanted to stick it all down. If you use a wet glue with sponge and actually sponge the glue onto the vellum, then you don't get any marks or anything. But I only will use the points where, like on this one, if I explain, I put some glue dots behind my butterfly, and I put some glue dots behind my sentiment, and that's the only bit where I've actually adhered the vellum to the card, and that's enough. Right, I'm going to have to stand up to just line this up properly. So I'll pop that onto foam pads. I'm just going to hopefully glue it reasonably straight. Okay, and then I will get my vellum, and I'm actually going to attach my my dragonfly to the vellum before I attach the vellum to the card. So I'm going to get my glue dots out, and I've just got some glue dots. I'm going to pop my glue dots onto the dragonfly. So if I pop one there, actually I think I'll probably do a little half of a glue dot, because it's quite skinny at that point there. So if I do a half a glue dot just on there. Did that go? No, come on. Yep, so I've got 2 glue dots on there, and I will just work out where I want that to be, probably about there. And then I can pop a glue dot behind on the vellum, just where the dragonfly covers it, and that other little half as well I can use. Stick that down. Oops, gone over that, but I think that's all right. Yeah, it's going to be hidden anyway. Right, so I've got glue dots there. So that's the first part. Now, if I work out where my sentiment's going to be, so I shall glue my sentiment onto the base card here, and then I can work out how big that is. Let's just get my trimmer. I'm just going to trim around that, just so that there's a nice even border all the way around my sentiment. Okay, so I've got that now, and that's going to go on, and I can lay this just on top without it being stuck down just yet. So if I just gently lay it, it's not stuck yet, and work out where I want my sentiment to go. So probably about there. I can just use tape for that, to be fair. I think I might have used a foam pad. Actually I did, I used foam pad, so I'll just stick a foam pad on that. So I'm going to just pop a foam pad on the back of my sentiment. So standing up again to get it in the right place. And I'll just pop that in the middle at the bottom. And then I can add a load of glue dots now behind that sentiment, just to hold the vellum in place. So if I pop one there, and one there, I'll probably just add one there. Obviously you don't have to add the vellum. The vellum is just, as I say, something that I felt just softened it a little bit. But you can have your rainbow full glow, as we say. Right, and now that's ready for me to attach it to the card. So I'm just going to have a nice even border either side. Hopefully that's reasonably straight. I've got wiggle room because I can just pull on those. There we are. And straighten that up. Just pop it where the dragonfly has been and make sure, push it down where your sentiment is, because that's where it's going to anchor your vellum. And there you go, that's another little card using your scraps up. And this is an old retired dragonfly, but I am using the bits that are all in my die cut box. So I'm trying to use up all the old die cuts that I have. So yeah, that's why I've got that one out. And I thought perfect for today. And as it's sparkly already, I don't think I need to add any sparkles on there. But I could just have a little, oh, maybe a little star in the corner there actually. No, don't like that. Maybe one just there. Pop a little, just popping some little stars down here. There we are. Right, so that's that finished.